All right. It looks like just about everyone's here. We're missing, there's a couple more. We're missing who? Kelsey.
Beth.
There's Kelsey.
Beth is there now.
Where's Isaac? Where's Isaac? Wait a minute, Kelsey.
He is downstairs with his dad, which is
Oh my God.
We're getting more teeth. We're on tooth 5 in the past like 3 weeks. It's been very, very good.
We are recording now too, by the way.
Well,
We've been recording all along, I think.
well, now the recording knows about Isaac's teeth.
Yeah.
Hello, all.
Hi, David. How are you tonight?
So good. So the link on the website to get into this meeting is invalid.
Now, see, I used the website link and I got in.
Well,
There were two different links.
I tried it 3 times just now.
I did too.
I had to call Beth. To get the correct link.
The one on the calendar, like, on the main page didn't work.
Yeah, the one that's up.
Oh.
Well, I just updated with the one that Breck emailed out. I just updated whatever. I don't know where it went wrong, but I put that link on both sites. So on
The one on the board page was correct. It was
So this is one of the problems we have sometimes when we put the right one place. If the wrong one was put in at some other point, we have to remember all the different places links are put.
Yeah.
And that's one of the headache things of maintaining a website.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm glad everyone made it one way or another. And I believe we're all here. So hooray for us. All right. Well, thank you everyone for coming. This is the March board meeting. And I'm happy to see everyone zooming in from near and far. Elizabeth, I think you're the farthest away out on the West Coast. Woohoo. All right. Before we get started, Beth created a document asking people to sign up for the reporter, the timekeeper, and the process observer. Beth, did anyone sign up already? Do we have people for those jobs?
I believe I said I'd be timekeeper.
You're the best. Thank you.
And I said I'd be process observer. I'm pretty sure I signed up.
You did?
I did too.
Okay.
Yeah.
We don't have words.
I think I signed up on the previous one, so I have words.
Oh,
Okay. I could not find the previous one anywhere. So this is the one that I sent out before this meeting is the only one that we're going to use from now on. We're not going to use any other ones.
Well, it was on my calendar, so.
Okay, good. Because no one else signed up for words.
You're hired.
Wait a minute. So I definitely signed up for words. I don't want to do words necessarily, but I do.
Okay, well,
sign
Pam,
up.
you're off. You don't have to do words.
Well, I'm just saying that I don't think it's working because I did sign up.
When did
Anyways,
you sign up? Did you sign up like yesterday?
Yesterday.
Oh, I didn't check it. Yesterday, I didn't get home until 10 o'clock last night. And I didn't do anything for the board last night except read.
All right. So Liberty's got opening and closing words. Kelsey's the timekeeper. Jim, did you say you were process observer? And we need a reporter who's going to write a few sentences about this meeting to post it tomorrow. Just the quick and dirty synopsis.
Yeah, that was such a great thing you did last month, Liberty. So thank you for doing that.
Oh, no problem.
Breck? Great. Breck is the reporter.
Can I say one more thing, Sean? There's a note in the chat that if you could go into the calendar, the church's calendar, and put the correct link to this meeting. We have sunshine laws in this congregation, don't we? So apparently the wrong link is on the church's calendar, which is the only place most
I just
people would.
updated that just now.
Oh, who did?
I did just now. I mean,
Oh, Liberty's already done it. Okay, done.
Yeah, it's updated.
So Dave, not to worry. People can find us now.
Perfect. All righty. Great. All right. All the jobs are filled in. So Liberty, it's your moment to shine. Opening words, please.
Okay, well, I went to the website where Oxa has been every week copying the chalice readings from the Soul Matters, the Soulful Home email, and she's been saving it on there. And so I thought as a shortcut, I would see if indeed there was something useful there. And I found one of the chalice lightings. And this one is from Rebecca Savage. And she says, "This is a chalice of audacious hope. This chalice shines a light on our shared past, signaling our intention to listen deeply, reflect wisely, and move boldly toward our highest ideals.
Thank you, Liberty. Rebecca Savage is the minister at the Rockville UU Church, where I just came from. And she is chair of the Ministerial Fellowship for the Committee for the Unitarian Universalist Association. She's a wonderful, wonderful colleague.
Excellent. All right. Thank you so much. Next up, we have community time and public comment. Would any of our public members like to make a comment tonight? Kelsey, you want to be a public comment? And you're muted.
I'm sorry, forgive me. I don't want to be a public, but I do want to move that we maybe push public comment a little bit to let people who got confused by the Zoom link have some time to get on.
I do not have any specific public comment.
Okay. Okay. Well, yes, if we have someone come later and they want to make a public comment, we can give them their 2 minutes later on.
Okay.
That's a good thought.
Just
And the only thing I want from Jude is to find out, is the figure going up the hill, does that figure have gender? We've had that discussion. Do we?
I tried to get one that was kind of neutral.
Oh, you did a good job with that, because there's been a lot of debate about that. So good job.
Well done, Jude.
Thank you.
Inquiring minds want to know.
Did you want to say something?
I want to say how delighted I am and thrilled and impressed I am with all of the people who have been helping with the pledge drive this year. In particular, I really want to thank AXA and Jim and Yvonne and Anne for being the coordinators for the teams. It has been so much fun, and I'm sorry, we're getting pizza delivered. So you hear that in the background. But I've been so grateful and so impressed. So I just wanted to share that.
Lovely. Thank you so much. All right. Anyone else? All righty. Next up is the acceptance of the agenda. Does anyone have anything that they want to add to the agenda tonight? I know there was some question about, were we going to take a moment to talk about the Jefferson, the brass letters in the Jefferson foyer, and that is on the agenda. Was there anything else anyone wanted to add? All right. All in favor? All in favor of accepting this agenda, please? Okay, agenda is accepted. Let's see. Next up is written correspondence. There were two or three written correspondence that were particularly important at the end of the board packet. I hope everyone has had a chance to read those, because they will figure in quite a bit later on in this meeting when we talk about another item on the agenda. So if you haven't had a chance, you might want to cruise through those while we go through the reports. All righty. Let's cruise through all 9 headings on reports then. The president's report, I do have some corrections, as Linda helpfully pointed out. Number one, there was a typo in there where I called UUC the UUA. So please forgive that. I'm just used to typing one but not the other. And then also, it is news to me that the UUA no longer charges our, I don't know what you call it, fees on a per head basis. It's now a percentage of the congregation's annual budget. And I haven't had time to look up what percentage that is or how that is figured. But in the past, we talked about, every member getting charged for the UUA magazine and other items. And it's not like that anymore. Now it's just a percentage of the budget. So I put those corrections up on Facebook. And if you want to put those on the website as well, we should correct that. Stan, did I see your hand up?
Yeah, just the last I knew, it was like 6.5% of the budget.
Okay. Okay. 6.5%. All right. Any questions or comments about the president's report then? All righty, moving on. Vice President's report. Elizabeth, any comments or corrections for you? Elizabeth?
Elizabeth's being quiet.
Oh, Elizabeth, are you having quiet time? You can't tell us your corrections for your report? Holy cow. California has done something here. All right, you got nothing? All right, I'm going to take that as I have nothing. All right. Stan, any comments or corrections from the treasurer's report?
Well, just the one little thing that I put in my first email to Beth. I'm having a hard time coming up with stuff to say. Everything's running too smoothly. I'll take it.
Yeah, that's a good problem to have. Yeah, that's the kind of reports we want to hear. All right. Next up, any questions for Stan or Elizabeth before we move on? All righty, then let's move to Linda. Any comments or corrections on your report? Anything?
I don't know of any corrections, but other people need to read my report to find out if I made any mistakes or typos. I never concede my own mistakes. No, I tried to fill everybody in on what's been going on. There's so much stuff going on. It's hard for me to make sure I'm reporting everything. Of course, a lot of it is just to fill you in, so you know it's not anything that you have to weigh in on. I'm really pleased with the energy and the work of the Pledge Drive Committee. I mean, what a talented group. There's some 30 people working on the whole thing, and it's just been great. And we're getting ready to move into our April, which is the theme is becoming, which is a perfect timing for us, because when we know how much money we're going to have and what name we're thinking about, and we're going to be able to really talk about who is this congregation becoming. It's going to be a great month, I think. And I'm engaged in a lot of different conversations with folks, new folks that have new ideas of what they want to be having conversations about. So it's kind of fun to see what might come out of that. So I don't think I have anything really to add to the report, except I know you have read every word, you know, and committed it to memory. So, and later on in the agenda, I am going to fill you in on the work I did with Breck to create a beautifully designed graph so you can see the search committee options, and got information from Keith Cron about, you know, that how all that works, so that I was right and he had good tips too. So that's later on in the report.
All right, excellent. Thank you. Any questions for Linda? All righty. Next up is the assistant minister. Alex McGee is out on sabbatical, so no report from Alex.
I did touch base with her to find out that she's enjoying getting some rest.
Good, good. I'm glad. It's a beautiful time of year to be out on sabbatical. All right, Leah, up next. Anything you want to lift up from your report this month?
I want to check and see, are we talking about the building use task force later, or should I speak to that now?
Let me just check. I don't see the building use on the agenda. So yeah, why don't you fill us in on how that's going right now?
Great, and I'll invite Sean to share this with me. Just want the board to know that the Building Use Task Force is increasing its activity as things begin to change in the world around us. We do ask that you please keep telegraphing the message to everyone you're interacting with in our congregation that the building is still closed, and that we actually do not anticipate having a change in our procedures or policy any time soon. So I know there's a lot of hope and wish and some confusing different bits of information that are out there as far as what different governors are saying and what different states are doing, but we are continuing to proceed with great caution, using our values as you use as our guide, wanting to be safe and inclusive. So the task force is going to be meeting regularly to be making sure we're establishing the benchmarks and protocols and evaluating that as things change. But it's just super important that you all help us, because it only makes our job harder if we have to keep telling people no. And there's a lot of interest in coming back. And so we really need your help with that messaging. Sean, you want to add anything?
Just that we are getting a lot of requests to use the building. Czech is asking if we can come back. We do have some people that are renting the outside area by Summit House. So there is a lot of interest, in case people were wondering about that.
And one of the things that I just want to kind of prepare you for is that I'm aware that, that like everything in Unitarian Universalism, different congregations handle things differently. So other congregations are making different choices than we are. So you may hear from a congregant who says, well, my friend who goes to blah, blah congregation, they're doing blah, blah, blah. And what we really need you to do is say, we have a task force, they're making recommendations to the board. We ask that you trust our process and know that we're making the best decisions that we can for our situation and congregation.
Mm-hmm. Good. Excellent. Thank you so much. Do you, without spilling the beans here, do you have an anticipatory timeline? Are we looking at maybe being back in the building by fall? Are we thinking by Christmas? Are we thinking, do we have
that's part of the problem is that, I mean, we can say, yes, we do, but then, there's a lot of information coming out that maybe it's not the best thing, because we're still, even though vaccines are getting prevalent, we're still being asked to wear masks.
Right.
We are hearing more and more countries in Europe shutting down because they're getting a third wave.
Right.
So while we would like to say, yes, we're going to meet in September, we really don't want to put that out, because
right,
we may not meet in September.
Right.
And if it depends, Lee and I were talking today, if it depends on the people doing what they're supposed to be doing, we probably won't be meeting this fall, because as people don't mask and they're going out there and they're spreading it, and it's mutating and getting worse.
Right.
Maybe there's a potential another lockdown. We don't know. So we don't want to give people false hope. We want to inform, but not give false hope.
Sure. I think a lot is dependent upon this third wave, or whatever we're going to call it. Kelsey, do you have your hand up? Go ahead.
Yeah, I did. This could be too big of a can of worms, but I just think it's worth thinking about whether or not we would consider doing an in-person option for people who are vaccinated, who have the card. I don't think I can say that or at any point, and I don't know if we want to do a 2-tier system. But.
And so part of what I would really encourage you all to do is go back to the UUA's website and look at what they are suggesting and recommending, and the value-based decision-making around inclusion. And that's a really huge piece, because it forces people to share things about themselves that they may not want to share. It easily leaves people out. So they've done a lot of really good thinking at the UUA with UUA staff and regional staff. And there are even, short video presentations you can watch. So I really ask you to do that, because it will help ground your own understanding in what the best practice is as far as our denomination is recommending.
That makes total sense to me, and is frankly what I was thinking. I just didn't know if it was on
right. Linda's got her hand up.
Yeah, I would just add, the other thing people are wanting to know about is gathering on our grounds, because now with the weather getting nicer, they say, well, why can't we meet on the grounds? And there again, we're going to want to give people really careful guidance. And so the committee is going to be talking about even parameters for that, because that even we'd still want to say how many people, and do they need to have distance and masks, and if they come in to use the bathrooms, what does that mean, and how do we do that? So even that, we're going to ask them, I think, to wait for at least a few weeks before they can get real answers back from the committee that's looking at that. Am I right on that, Leah?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
And we want to really work on it, because I know the Environmental Action Group wants to have a outdoor tour of their new gardens, and the looking at the holy trees, and sort of guided tour of all the work that's been done, and they know they're going to have to do it by the guidelines. So we're hoping that we have something really well developed by April 25th.
Yep. And I think that what I was going to say is just gone from my head, but I'm sure it'll come back.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you guys are doing it in a way that is ultra careful, because I don't want to rush into this, and I don't want us to have any regrets that we moved too quickly, because it will be nearly impossible to walk it back. Better to walk forward incredibly slowly and do it right. So,
right. And that you reminded me, Lori, of what I wanted to say. And it actually, I want to invite you all to think of this with two different lenses. So one is the inclusivity and justice lens, and think of it as an opportunity to really practice what we preach around our justice work, and what does justice look like as far as inclusion goes, and being welcoming, and even helping us see things out of our normal things that we wouldn't necessarily even think of. Like, it's that good practice around coming at things from a different orientation or angle or understanding, or putting yourself in an empathetic place. And then the other thing I really want to ask you to do is take this on as a learning, in that we have to keep educating people in our congregation. And part of how that connects to the justice piece for me is, I had a beloved elder in our congregation say to me, "We're all vaccinated. When can we come back? We're ready." And I had to say, "I'm so glad you're vaccinated and that the people around you are vaccinated, but we are not all vaccinated." So it's a gentle, loving learning that we need to do with everybody as well, because it's easy to, in our desire to be together, to not think more globally, but to be thinking very individually.
Yeah. Yeah. Excellent point. All right. All right. Any other questions or comments about the Building Use Task Force?
Or my report, if there are things in my report you want to know about.
Yes. All right. All right. Thank you. Are you going to put something in one of the emails?
Good point there, Lori. So Linda can actually speak to that. We've got a plan for this week.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I see Brex putting his notes in right now, that it's going to be in the board report, but we are going to put the focus on Friday. This Friday is going to focus on it. Yeah.
Yeah. Especially in light of what Leah said, the weather's getting warmer. People are walking around. They're all going to walk up to the building, and we should give everyone a heads up so they don't start yanking on the door, wondering what's going on.
I think, the task force is going to be meeting regularly. And I think one of the things that we will be doing, I think, is a weekly communication with the congregation, whether information changes or not. We will be saying this week's update is, just so we keep people feeling like they know what's going on.
Excellent thinking. All right. All right. No more questions. Thank you so much. Next, our DIF. Sean, anything you want to lift up out of your report? What do you have?
I have a couple of things actually I wanted to put in there. That the co-security system is installed, and we are going to start arming the building on April 2nd. Or excuse me, no, we're going to start letting people know we're going to arm the building on April 2nd. And give everybody about a 2 weeks kind of a grace period, and then we're going to start arming it. Once again, it will not be connected to the police, so we can kind of get a feel for the people coming in and out of the building. Cove also just released an update where the cameras will be available through their app. So those of you who have volunteered, I'll be emailing you in the next couple of days, giving you information on how to download the app and what you can do. And then once we get our cameras up, we'll be able to look at those through the app rather than having to download a whole separate app, which was kind of annoying, but I'm glad they made that change. So once again, April 2nd is when we're going to announce the 2 week, for 2 weeks that we're arming the building. And then we will start arming the building, and the rest of the month will be kind of like a dry run. And we won't probably put it to the police at least until mid to late May. But I will be able to see who's coming in and out of the building at the very least, which will be nice. The other thing is we are moving forward with updating the phone system. It looks to be, we'll probably be saving about 30 to 40 bucks a month for an improved phone system, getting away from Comcast. So that includes new equipment and just a bunch of new abilities that we can forward into our cell phones and great stuff like that. The phone number, the outgoing phone number will not change, so that it will still be the same. There will be no outward difference to the public, to the congregation, other than maybe a little bit better quality and being able to reach us a little bit better through our phones from work. And I think that was about it.
Cool. Any progress with Commonwealth Glass and the doors?
I did send the letters certified, and I have received receipts of the confirmation of receipt. I have not heard anything back from them. So I'm going to go ahead and start looking for, I guess, someone to help us move this to, I guess, more formal lawyer stuff, litigation.
Mm-hmm. Have we, this doesn't seem appropriate for a church, but this has worked in the past when I have had customer service issues. Have we tried calling them out on social media and tagging them? Because that has helped me in the past.
If I was doing it for myself, I would, but I would be leery of doing that for the church.
I'm as I said that, I thought about it. I would be reluctant to do it as a church. Pam, thoughts here?
I've had luck with going through the Better Business Bureau before.
Yeah, they're not registered with the Better Business Bureau, but I can definitely lodge a complaint.
Got it. All right. Well, I'm sorry to hear that. That just, this has been going on for ages now. And yeah. All right. Elizabeth?
Sean, can I ask a question before you go on?
Let's go Beth and then Elizabeth.
I wrote down what you said about the security system is now in place, and we will be announcing that we will be arming the system, like with guns, the system on April 2nd.
No. It's a perimeter alarm. So what happens, open the door and then you'll hear this, if you're in the social hall, there is a new box installed to your right as you're entering in the social hall doors. And on that is a little touchpad. Everybody's going to have, people who need keys, basically, will have a passcode. You enter in that passcode. So basically, anytime the building is secured and armed through that system, when a door is opened, it'll send me a notification. And like, hey, is this person supposed to be coming in? And then hopefully in the next week or so, I'll have the cameras installed and that good to go. So what I want to do in the second is I want to let the congregation know that this is the next step. We're going to start arming the building. So if you need a passcode, or if you need to know how to use it or whatever, then contact me, because on the 16th, I believe is that right, Friday the 16th?
Yes.
Yeah, Friday the 16th is when I want to start making the building, the perimeter alarm turn on. So
perhaps instead of calling it arming the building, how about activating the alarm?
Okay, activating the alarm. There you go.
Or setting the security system.
Mm.
I like activate.
Get the alarm
That
out.
actually, yeah.
Oh, and then my second thing, real fast, because I hear a Bubby call, is that I think we have a church member who's a lawyer, if you all can brainstorm that, because the thing that's worked for me is a single letter on lawyer, a letterhead, and that's sufficient to break the ice.
I think we might have done that brainstorming last time, because I remember making some names. So I've got suggestions of lawyers in the congregation, Sean, if you don't have that.
Yeah, if anybody just wants to email me some names, that'd be great. I don't think I took notes on that last time. I apologize.
Okay. Yeah, something to break the ice with this. All right. Let's see. Any comments or questions for Sean? Anything else? All righty. Thank you, Sean. Next up, the membership report and Marcia Becker reports. We're now at 365. Let's see.
My guess is that's changed already because since she compiled that report, we've had several resignations.
Okay. All right. Next up, the nominating committee. Breck, what do you have for us?
Yeah, we have been very busy and been in communication with Rev Linda and Rev Leah. And I think it's fair to say that we have the bulk of the slate is largely we have candidates in place. I'm not going to break any news here tonight, but we're in conversation with Linda and Leah about those. The positions we're still doing a little bit of research into are the nominating committee itself. What I think that they may be getting a little bit resting on their laurels, and depending on the conversation tonight, they may find out that they need to have more work to do with potential search committee things.
All right.
They're not involved with any of that this spring, so.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Well, excellent news. That's a huge relief that we've got some great candidates out there. We're looking forward to hearing some names and working to get them up to speed. So great. Thank you so much. Personnel, Elizabeth, did you cover everything in your written report? Do you have anything else you want to lift up for personnel? No.
Nope, that's it.
That's it. Perfect. Thank you. Kay, anything you want to lift up out of the volunteer report? It's all there in black and white. Good to go. Excellent. Anyone have any questions for the NOMCOM or Elizabeth and personnel or Kay?
Just as a little note, Kay, I hope Kay put up a bluebird house, which is really pretty, and I'm excited to see if it gets used. So that was awesome.
Nice. Yeah, I've seen bluebirds zooming around that yard. That's exciting. All right. And finally, the Glen Short Endowment Fund is running their account down to the bitter end. So hooray for them. Thank you, Bev, for keeping that going. I want to say that I got an email this afternoon, and I think some of you were copied on it. I'm not sure. From Dan Grogan. Did anyone else see this email? Yes, Breck saw it. Where Dan is making a suggestion. Recently, we talked about a name for the lower hall besides calling it the lower hall, or in some cases, the basement. And Dan's suggestion was to call it the Glen, which has several meanings, but I just wanted to lift that up tonight so you can roll that around in your head, and we'll pass on the suggestion to the aesthetics committee. Elizabeth, I see your hand up.
Yes, I already told Dan that we were not going to do that, that it just opens a whole can of worms because lots of people have donated lots of money to our church.
Perfect.
And you don't want to start naming rooms because there's only so many rooms, and we put up a plaque for Glenn in the sanctuary and it was over and done.
Excellent.
So Dan needs to be told about 6 times, but I told him already that that is a turn down suggestion.
All right. Should I forward this to you so that you can tell him again, or should I tell him too?
I'll copy what I told him already. He's trying to go around me. It's Dan.
There you go. All right. Well, I just wanted to leave that with you all. So now that I know the backstory, I will handle it from my end then. All right. That concludes our reports. Anything else anyone wanted to lift up that didn't get mentioned or written about in all those many pages? Linda.
I just wanted to let everybody know that I've been a little slow on starting to work with anybody about the budgeting process. So this past week, I spent time talking to Sean last week and Stan and Marion, the finance chair, to discover how they were building a budget and how I can be involved, and sort of letting people know that next year it'll be a little bit different. So Elizabeth is working on making sure that we have the contacts with the right committees and everything. And Sean and I and Leah will be working with our committees, and then we're all going to collaborate with the finance committee when we finally have a number from the pledge drive committee. And then all of that will be, they're going to have a somewhat early in the month meeting of the finance committee where we'll work on the draft budget. So just to let you know, the board will receive a real draft budget, possibly 2 or 3 draft budgets. We may prepare several, deficit, balanced with different choices, with giving choices. So you guys have that to look forward to, but I just wanted to let you know that these things, the wheels are in motion. And if, it's going to be a quick turnaround because I wasn't thinking ahead. I should have been working on this earlier, but because I was sort of focusing on getting money in as opposed to how we're going to spend it, I just a little bit slow. So between Elizabeth's help with the committee chairs and Sean and Leah and Stan and the excellent finance committee, you're going to have a product to look at in April. Lucky you.
Stan, go ahead.
Yeah, just want to add, there have been other people already thinking about how we're going to spend it. So you didn't cost us any time, I promise.
Well, I'm not costing you time, but my involvement with it, my attention with it too, because
oh yeah, no, we welcome that. Absolutely.
All right. Thank you. Any other comments out there? All right. And I just want to thank everyone for taking the time to write your reports and get them out there. It makes these meetings so much more efficient to get everything done in writing and then just lift a few things up. I like that these meetings are ending more and more closely to on time with each passing month. So perhaps by June or July, we'll make it right on time. But thank you again, everyone, for writing your reports. All right, we're up to electronic motions, which I don't believe we have any right now, except to say that we did pass last month's board minutes successfully via electronic, via email. We're up to break and gratitude cards, but we've only been meeting for 30 minutes. Do you think we can stick break and gratitude after old business, depending upon, yeah, let's do that. All right, let's move on then to old business. And the first thing is the pledge drive update. And Jim, this is your moment to shine. And then Dawn, if you want to chime in anything, you too.
All right, so there's been a lot of meetings every week of the various teams, and the team leaders get together every Saturday, I believe, and we get together and talk about things. And I'll just give you the bottom line update is, depends on whether your glass half full or empty. I'm going to go with full, but we have a week to go in what is our official pledge drive, which ends on the 31st. And my understanding, a clarification from Linda, so in the month of March is when we are publicly having our pledge drive, and then in the week or so after that, we might be doing some mop-up activities, but there will be an ending to it, which everyone is grateful for, because that's one of the things that I really think we're very happy about. And so we have 155 households that have pledged. 131 of them are what I call repeater pledges. They pledged last year and they're doing it again this year. And 24 are new pledges. Some of them are longtime members, but they, for whatever reason, didn't actually pledge in the last pledge drive. So by this categorization, they're new. We've raised a total from pledges of, by my calculations, $410,000 and 200, which exceeds our total from last year. There's a slight discrepancy with Breeze. I think Breeze lags what I put in by a few days. I'm not quite sure I understand that, but sometimes it catches up. But if it doesn't catch up by the end of the pledge drive, we'll make sure that what I have in this spreadsheet and that matches. And then we have, in addition, $20,750 in matching funds for a grand total so far of $431,033. And some interesting data to go along with that is that, we did ask for a lot of, we mentioned many times how much of an increase we really need, and we've seen a median increase in pledges of of about 16 to 17%. So the average increase, people are increasing their 17%. There's a few that have decreased, not many, several that stayed the same as expected, and quite a few that increased, some 100% or more, 300%, those kinds of dramatic increases. And we took the median, that's 16.7%. When you look at the dollar value, we're up at about 17 or 18% of increased pledges, not counting the match and not counting the new pledges over last year. So those that repledged, the amount of money coming in is about 18% higher for the repledgers than what we saw last year. There's one other point I wanted to make. Reverend Linda, several days ago, 10 days ago, asked me to keep track of kind of what our potential could be from people that have yet to repledge, and that's about $46,000 now. So that number keeps going down as people come in. The glass half empty part of this is that if you look sort of at the bar graph that I created, and many of you may follow that, every week we have fewer and fewer people. So whatever reason, we had 75, I think, I don't have it in front of me, pledgers the first week, as sort of as of our kickoff, we pledged that, had 75 pledgers. A lot of work went into that. And this week, since Sunday, I sort of mark it on every Sunday, we only have 5 people pledge. So I kind of expected, but I think I don't know how much more we're going to get from this. So I think we're getting pretty close to sort of an asymptote, to use a math term. Maybe there'll be a kick for those people that at the end of it, like, oh, tomorrow's the last day, I better pledge, and the procrastinators will come in. I'm sure there'll be something there. But my guess is we're going to end up with around $440,000 to $450,000 is a guess. In terms of thematically, and we've discussed among our communications team how to make the pledge, what the themes of the pledge drive going forward should be, what's most effective, and we've kind of moved from some of the things we discussed before, but how there is a need, and please, everyone increase your pledge, and everyone pledge, to a lot of people have pledged. Now you can join us too, and we'll see how effective that kind of communication is. And I believe Jude was working on a graphic that would encapsulate that with some hands up in the air. Is that right, Jude? Is it you that was working on that? Somebody was working on that. I thought it was Jude, but we've seen it. So there's a lot of, every week we meet and we continue to hone the message, and as best as we think is going to be most effective for that week. And I think it's going well overall. Dawn, you want to add anything?
I don't really have too much to add. Thank you very much, Jim. That was much more detailed than probably what I would have said on the spot. But I agree. I think it's going well. I also agree that 440 to 450 is probably what we can expect as the final amount. But I'm pleased, and I'm very grateful, like I said earlier, to everybody who's been helping with it.
Yeah. Linda?
I just want to say, I think you should be more than pleased. I think you should be thrilled, because it's unheard of for a congregation to do 18% increase. That's just amazing. I would not have thought it was possible, but you did it. And even though I know we're not at the point we wanted to be at, like ideal in an ideal world, we are, in a year of COVID, when you have a stranger coming in to be your minister and nobody gets to be together, to have that many people be willing to step up and really support things just shows that you've done an awesome job. I just am so pleased. And I think Liberty and Aksha, the communications team, have shown us what great communications can do. So anytime now we want to try to get people engaged, we now have a model. I've been hearing back from people, they love the new formatting of how the communications is smartphone friendly, visually more pulling you in. I've heard that there are some people that have seen things on Facebook that don't ever open our emails. So yay, we're going into social media. So anyway, there's a lot of side benefits that aren't even the money that we're learning through our work on this pledge drive that is going to benefit us in the future. So just I just want to say you should be very, very thrilled. And we're having a celebration on April 11th and in the service. So hopefully everybody will come, and everybody's supposed to bring their favorite brunch bubbly with them. And you'll hear more about that. But I'm already feeling you should start celebrating, even though I know we have one more week to go.
Did I see Beth? I saw your hand up, and then Liberty.
I just wanted to say exactly what Rev Linda just said, but being a member of his church for, gosh, I always forget how many years, but like more than half my life, I guess, because it was before I got married, and just being on the pledge drive, you know, with having to make calls for years and years and years, I have never seen, and it's just, I'm always excited about the pledge drive. Because I love the dinners, I love the Sunday testimonials, I love the social hall excitement, but I've never seen what's going on this year. And every night before I go to bed, I check where the little running person is on the mountain. Like that's my little ritual before I go to bed. And I'm like, yes, we're above 400,000. Like last night I was like cheering and Dawn sound asleep. But yeah, I just think, I don't know how we did it. Like Rev Linda said, in a year of COVID, in a year that we're not even able to be together and eat soup on Sunday together, I don't know how we did it, but it's incredibly organized, and yeah, it's just great.
Liberty, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just going to say again, amazing team is what is making this possible. We're going to have lots of time to like go over it and talk and celebrate in the next couple of weeks. And I'm really looking forward to that. Jim, I just had to hear, like, was there a number I remember the last meeting? When was the last time we were even close to this number, not even adjusted for inflation? Because I know we increased last year from the year before. So
2014, 15.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Jim, I spoke for you.
Okay.
Oh, no, I don't mind. I actually think, so we're ahead of most years of the last like 10, 12 years.
10, 12 years. I mean, that is so cool.
But I think there is a year there's a couple years that are ahead, but we might actually we might have a record breaker, maybe.
I think so.
Knock on wood. I don't want to, jinx or anything. Stan.
Stan.
Yeah.
Yeah, the largest number I've got going back to, I think, when is it? 2011, yeah, is 411,000 and change.
Wow.
And we haven't even started the text messaging part yet, y'all.
I thought we had one year that was 440, Stan, or something.
I'm looking at actuals here.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I don't know what the budgeted number was. I know that for a few years there, they were fairly artificially inflated. So,
well, isn't actuals what actually comes in? So isn't this budget not actuals in a way?
Well, this is budget, but the numbers I have are actuals. So that's what I've got to work with right now.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
And you got to adjust for inflation too.
Right. That's another thing. 10 years, that's not insignificant.
And the other thing that's significant, I did put in my report, is that the pledge committee will come together end of April, early May or whatever, and have a very intentional debrief where we'll capture processes, lessons learned, and we're going to be able to be forming and appointing a new team in May. So nobody has to worry. There will be a new pledge team ready to go before we all go off to our beach trips in the summer.
That's great. And the pledge people, they look pretty happy too. They don't look burnt out and exhausted. They look like they're having fun. So kudos to you guys for really putting together a fine committee, and people like to be there. I mean, everyone seems to be reasonably happy, and you're having great success. So again, congratulations to the Pledge Drive Committee. We've got another week to go until we see those final numbers. But yeah, excellent news so far. All right, thank you so much. Anything else you guys want to add? Otherwise, moving on. Jim, one more thing.
What I want to add is, I alluded to it before, but I think one of the reasons we're reasonably happy is we got a lot of preemptive stress relief from Linda and other leaders in the church that said, we're going to do the best we're going to do and don't get bent out of shape. That's kind of the message, and it's going to end at a certain time. And, we can't beat ourselves up for what we can't control. And I really think that was a very important message to say at the outset, because I felt much better going into this, without this like sort of Damocles over the head, like we've got to do this, like we're going to do the best we can do, and we're going to have fun with it. And I think that's the attitude we've all gone in with.
Yeah.
So thank you for that.
Good.
So.
Good. All
For
right.
those involved, if you could just double check the numbers and the text that I dropped in the chat just at some point today.
Where is that intended to go then?
Oh, this is just part of I've just been dropping in the summaries of what we've been chatting about.
Okay.
Along the way.
A little bit of reporting. Great.
Breck's going to be our reporter this month.
Oh, right. Thanks.
All right. Up next, the ministerial search and sort of where we stand on this and what's our next move going forward. Linda, you want to speak to this for a bit, or?
Sure. So Breck helped me because I had come up with a timeline thing, and then I asked, I double checked it with Keith Cron at the UUA, and he said it looked good and gave me a few other tip things that aren't in this graph. But then I asked Breck if he would, oh heck, hang on a second, I'm trying to double task here. If he would make a beautiful, there it is. So I'm going to screen share in just a moment. Okay. I hope I can screen share. I can't minimize on this for some reason because I'm the host. So the question is, can I get back on it? Okay, screen share. Share. Do you see it?
Not yet. Oh, there it comes.
Okay. So now I don't know what to do with all the pictures of people on the right, if you guys have that, but that's okay. So these are our options for the ministerial search. And I wanted to put it in a graphic form so y'all could see it. Option 1, you'll see across the top is the timeline: April, May, summer, fall, December. It's not to proportion. It's just, I wanted to show the things that would coming up fast, and then it's fall, December, January, February.
Right.
So option 1, if you decide you want to settle a minister a year from now, you would have to be forming a search committee right now. And the reason I said the nominating committee wouldn't have to work this spring is because Keith said as long as they were in place by the summer. So what I would say is that you would have to make the decision at the April meeting so that we could have the process where we invite the congregation to send in their names of people that they would trust. Then we would give those names to the nominating committee, the ones that got more than 15 nominations or whatever. And then they would have time to interview those people and pick out a good search team. Meanwhile, we'd have to notify the UUA, and Keith told me the person that we should be in touch with, who would then begin to start really giving us counsel. And I kind of back away then, because the interim minister doesn't get really involved with the search. I just get you on the right track, and then somebody else takes over. So then probably in the summer, you would have with that new search committee, would have a retreat with the coach, that person that the UUA gives you, to know how to do it. And then the fall, they would survey the congregation and create a search packet. So you see, this is all very condensed. And the packet would be posted at the UUA in December, so that in January, you'd start getting names and you'd do interviews. They'd all be Zoom interviews. And then usually by the end of February, there's candidating weeks where if the search committee has picked out their 3 favorite people, they come preach at a Virginia church, and the search committee gets to meet them in person. And then they narrow it down and they make an offer, and that person comes back for what is called a candidating week. It's 2 weekends and a whole week in between, where they preach in the church, they meet lots of people. And at the end of it, there's a congregational vote up or down. It's one person, they get to vote on one person. And hopefully that's done usually by the first weekend in May at the beginning. So, and then the transition would happen with me staying and leaving. Leaving in the summer and the new person coming right after I leave. So you'd have a settled minister by the fall of a year from this fall. So that's if option one, if you decide you want a settled minister. If you think one more year with me is all you need to be ready to settle a minister. Option two is getting a 3-year developmental minister by the fall of 22. And that is, gives us a little time to breathe this spring. We would talk about it, decide, you guys would figure it out. You would want to have some time to survey the congregation. I had put it on fall. Breck suggested it should be moved to summer, the survey of the congregation, which is to sort of get the idea of what does the congregation feel needs to be done. But ultimately it's a board decision, what areas are the most important things that need to be worked on? Like if it's finances, if it's, structural, if it's governance, if it's public witness, I mean, whatever it is, so that then we sort of have a sense of, in the fall, they would form this, we would go through the same process of forming a search committee that we would have done in the spring for a settled minister, because we have a little more time. And that's when we would let the UUA wants to know in the fall if we're doing this, so that we can post the description with them in December, and the interviews come in January, February. The hire comes usually by right around Easter time. And it's a hire, it's not a call. There's no candidating with the congregation. And then, but everybody knows there's a minister coming that's going to be with them. And it's the beauty of a contract minister is it's not like marriage. You don't have to think, oh my God, we got to make this work and we have to be in love. It's just, we have a contract. We have a clear job description, clear set of goals. The board is going to work with the minister to try to meet and it's got time limits on it. So there again, next summer, I would say goodbye and you would say hello to a new minister. And I only said 3-year developmental because that's sort of the standard. Some churches will end up keeping them for year 4 or 5, but then it's a contract. You make the decision. But I have a feeling you guys would probably do fine after a 2-year interim to have a 3-year developmental. Then the third option is that you would not be ready to get a developmental minister in a year. If you feel like, oh my God, we still don't have our act together enough, we need more time to think about it, either developmental or settled, because we don't want to make a decision to get a developmental minister because maybe we will be ready for a settled minister, but we don't know that. It's like, so the way you buy yourself that time is you have 1 more year of interim. And so this option gives you even more sort of breathing space, is that the board would have these conversations over the summer and into the fall, and do some sort of surveying of the congregation. And by surveying, we'd come up with some questions to sort of assess what do they think they need in ministry, we need in ministry. We'd consult the UUA in about December and form an interim search team. And this is stuff that Pam McIntyre knows well, because she, of course, did all this just a year ago. It maybe seems longer ago than that, Pam, but it was just a year ago. You form the search team, put the packet in, start getting names. And this is when it's like this incredible, 3-week process in usually April into May, where you get the names, you pick out who you want to interview. Kelsey was on that committee too. Oh, as was Don. Yeah. So and then you interview and you hire somebody, and then you say goodbye to me and you get the new 1-year interim. Keith said that back in December or so, he'd want to be probably involved to help people with the discernment, because some people will start saying, why not just keep Linda? Blah, blah, blah. So that conversation he feels would be best handled by somebody that's not in the system, helping moderate that conversation. If you've decided you want another interim, the whole question of is Linda the right person or not should not be handled by me or by you all, but by somebody else coming in and talking with you. So those are the 3 options. And of course, if you go with a 1 more year option, you're starting a 3rd year of interim in the fall of 22, you would then need to, be ready almost immediately to go back. In the spring of 22, you have to be ready to go on this track, if that makes any sense. Oh, spring of 23. Yeah. So, I mean, you have to, that interim is basically going to be helping you get through that process. No, this is wrong.
Yeah, this is where I was having a question because, well, the interim wouldn't start until the fall of 22.
Oh, yeah, so it would be the spring of 23, but you start, no, you'd start option 1 or 2 in the
It'd be
fall,
right. It'd be right
in the
here.
fall of 22 to be ready for spring of 23, for spring 23. So this is, yeah, I didn't spot this, Breck. That last bit is wrong. You as soon as you say goodbye to me and a new interim comes, you right away in the fall of 22 start option 1 and 2 for to
Isn't
be
that
ready
too-
for the spring of 23.
Isn't that too late for option 1?
Nope. Oh, in the summer it would be, yeah, but yeah.
I guess if we just look at this May date of notify UUA, if we were going to start that in 22 in order to get
But so you would do that even as you
We'd
would
have to
bring
do
a
that
new
right
interim.
here.
You would bring a new interim in knowing that you're already doing this.
yeah,
It was
you'd
that
have to-
interview with the interim would be to say, we're also doing this.
right.
So the interim would know that they're coming in to help guide the church while this other process is getting started. So right in here, you'd be starting up with either this or you'd be making the decision to do this.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's that.
So
second-
yeah, so that revisit option 1 or 2 in spring of 22.
Yeah.
So to make a decision for the spring of 24, or
Right.
23. Yeah.
All right, well, this is super helpful to have it laid out in this little timeline graph. This
Yeah.
really,
Thank you, Breck, for making it prettier. I
Yeah.
sent him something that was a Word document and he made sense of it.
It was fun to decipher.
It made perfect sense to me, you know.
Oh no, just all the columns were crazy.
Yeah. Oh, I know. It was because it doesn't transfer right. It wasn't a PDF, right?
yeah, no, this makes perfect sense. So I guess the question is, do we want to have a discussion now about our options? Do we want to have a discussion and make a decision at the April meeting? Because as you can see, if we want to call a settled minister, we would have to make that choice and get started in April. Kelsey is telling me that we have now reached our 20 minutes. Oh, bye, Dawn. So we can, what? Why don't we kind of go around and see where everyone is leaning?
Should I keep this share screen up or should I take it down? What do you guys
You
think?
could probably, I think you can take the share screen down if anyone really needs it.
Because it's easier for us to see each other if that's not up there, right?
Yeah. Or you can minimize your share screen and then everyone comes back.
I can minimize it.
See those two little white lines and the black line?
It says pause share.
If you click on those two little white lines and scoot it toward the other way, it minimizes your share part and makes your people part bigger. See how there's a line between the share screen and the people's part?
Oh, this thing?
And then,
You have it side by side, yeah.
yeah. Just click on it and scoot it over and it makes the share screen about that big.
Why don't we just get rid of the share screen?
Or we could just
Well,
get,
that's what I said. The only reason to leave it on there is if people wanted to look again. So
either way, if you're dying to look at the share screen. So let's just kind of do a little informal poll. We have 3 options there: a settled minister, a developmental, or an interim. I'm guessing for this informal poll, you can raise your hand for more than one option. But if you're leaning toward a settled minister and starting that search committee in next month, will you raise your hand if you're leaning toward the settled minister option and starting that next month? So I see Stan, Pam, Elizabeth, and Breck. So 4 people leaning towards settled. Okay. And then if you're leaning toward developmental, and again, you can vote twice. If you're leaning toward developmental with a 3 to 5 year option, raise your hand on the developmental. So I see 1, 2, I see me, Jim, Stan, Beth, Kelsey, Pam, Elizabeth, and Liberty. Okay, I see everyone except for Breck leaning in on developmental. And if anyone is leaning toward another interim, perhaps just a 1-year interim, put your hand up on that one. Okay, Pam, you're just all over the map. All right. All right, so that gives us some idea which direction everyone is leaning. In the interest of time, I don't really want to start this discussion right now. Let's run through the new business and then the stewardship. But everyone be thinking about this. We might need to have another informal discussion about this before the April meeting.
Yeah, I'm thinking because April's going to be pretty filled with budget probably.
April is going to be filled with budget. So maybe we can just have a work session sometime between now and then just to really hash this out. Pam, do you have a comment?
I have a quick question. So Linda, you sort of listed a couple things that developmental ministers could focus on. Could you list that again for me? I want to be thinking about it.
Well, they could be, I mean, depending upon what we discern is the biggest problems, like structures, how you're structured, if you're structured for a congregation a different size than what you are now, if you're, you know, things that keep getting in your way. So they would help with restructuring. They could help with just this whole thing of building up stronger financial systems, you know, generosity, stewardship, endowment, you know, and it's, I don't know what else, you know, I mean, that's the kind of thing, and that's what we would discern. I haven't been thinking a lot about it. I can start to do an assessment. I can meet with, you know, with the board and the interim team and the staff, and we could sort of brainstorm where do we think the places are that need work, and do we think they need enough work that we need a developmental minister in for 3 years or not. But that's the kind of thing, and you'd give the developmental minister, say, 2 or 3 specific goals to work on. So you'd want to find somebody that was their expertise, as well as, of course, you want somebody who can be a preacher and a pastoral care person and all that stuff. But maybe you want somebody who's good at strategic planning. I don't know. So that's kind of, and there again, if you want some counsel, you could always get Keith Cron to weigh in. And I'm going to send you, it was in my materials that I sent to Breck, but didn't get it on the graph. He sent you links on the UA website that just describe all 3 kinds of ministry and when you're ready for the, you know, interim, developmental, or settled. And so I'll send that out to you. And I apologize, it didn't make it onto the graph and it didn't make it into my report.
I'm on the interim ministry thing, so I'm sure this will we'll hear more about it, but I just don't have an idea of the whole big picture at the moment. And so I don't really have an idea of how to make that decision, because I don't feel like I have the big assessment of where we are. I feel enormously happier than I did a year ago. I'm not sure that is one data point.
All right. All right. Well, let's, like I say, let's anticipate a work session sometime between now and then and collect your questions, comments, and thoughts, and we'll really hash it out then. But for now, let's just keep moving on. Let's take a 5-minute bio break. And if anyone needs a second helping of dinner, please go get that. Otherwise, we'll be back here at 7:45. Thank you, friends.
Linda, I'll make that change to that sheet and send it back out to you.
Yeah, and I apologize. I should have made my Word document into a PDF. I think I could have done that. I'm almost smart enough to know how to do that.
Oh, no, it's no problem at all.
Oh, no, but you're right. The columns get messed up because if you don't do tabs, it doesn't show up right. So.
Well, the funniest thing was when I first opened it up, it was
Oh, chaos, huh?
it was portrait mode.
Oh, no.
And so Google just kind of like smashed it all together. I was like, oh no, how am
Oh,
I
yeah,
gonna
I
change
didn't even tell you I'd done it in landscape. Yeah. Yeah. So you're wonderful to spend time doing that because it really makes a difference. And I should learn how to do that kind of software, but I don't.
No, it's fine. Yeah, I wondered about that, and I'll just change that date so it's not confusing. It's just everyone will need to be aware that that will be almost kind of like two processes,
right,
kind of starting up.
The big thing, and this is where I really do need to do my I've so focused on the pledge drive for the last 2 months. I do need to pull back and sort of make a report to the board about where I see what I have been discerning, and I need to check it out with other people. So I'll probably try to get together with my transition team and the staff and come back so people can see what a developmental minister might do. I gotta say, in some ways, the congregation and the systems seem like there's a lot of work to be done. Like I think there's a lot of work to be done. On the other hand, having just done the work with the pledge drive committee and, sensing what we could do with other structures that seem a little broken to me, I don't know that it does need 3 years of developmental. I mean, it definitely felt like it, a year ago, but watching how well people are working together right now, it's like, that's interesting. So,
yeah. Well, that assessment would be great for if there's any form of it for the working session when
yeah.
That would be I think what everybody is we don't want to put it on you, but on the other hand,
well, no, but that's part of what my work is to help feedback, mirror back to you what I'm seeing and what I think needs to be done, and you can feed back to me. But in some ways, the pledge drive committee working as well as they're working proves to me that that's not as broken as it appeared.
Yeah, well, we do have a lot of really amazing successes over the past
amazing
year.
People that do good work when their leadership is in place and when it's clear, a clear outline of what's needed. So
yeah.
So I'll give myself that task in the next couple of weeks to try to work on that and turn around and get you guys some evaluation back.
Possible.
How's it going, Dave?
Doing okay.
What's the story at UVA, the campus? Because you guys had that one little outbreak, right?
Well, we're doing really well. They just yesterday increased the outdoor gathering up to 25 from 10, and that's the highest it's been all year, or I should say all academic year. And so that's a good thing, and there's a possibility that some type of a graduation's gonna happen in person this year. We're not exactly sure what that's gonna look like, but supposedly by April 2nd, we're gonna know.
That's great.
Yeah. Wow. And so maybe Atlas Coffee is gonna get a lot of visitors.
That's what we're hoping.
Graduation and everything, and we'll see.
Is the new outdoor thing 50% up to a certain number of people? Like if you did it in the football stadium?
So I think at least the way UVA is doing it, I think it's 5,000 or 30% capacity. At least that's the way I understand the last announcement that I saw. But the 25 person, just gathering thing that came out just yesterday. I didn't see any upping of the possible graduation thing, but you know, we're taking it day by day, and you know, we never know what's going to happen. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
everyone here in housing and conferences has gotten used to being told one thing in the morning and being told something totally different in the afternoon. So
Right.
real pain in the butt.
Well, everyone seems to think that there's going to be a big influx of vaccines in April. So if that's true, yeah, I see some thumbs up from our healthcare professional. If that's true and we can get everyone in town vaccinated by April, then maybe an in-person graduation is not such a crazy idea after all. So I hope that can happen.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I haven't gotten my email yet.
No. Me neither. Still waiting patiently, or
Okay.
waiting, not so patient anymore, but still waiting.
Yeah, no, I'm like
Students are driving. Students are driving to Danville.
Did
you know? I read about that. So are they actually getting them in Danville?
My daughter and her roommates got them in Danville. They actually announced it on the parent portal at Virginia Tech and UVA. And it was an onslaught of students because they just had a ton.
So they down there and showed up.
I saw that parent portal announcement and I looked up, you know, the Danville thing, and I saw the local news talking about it, and they said, no, don't show up. You're not going to get it. Don't show up. You know, you need to get an email, but you're telling me that that's wrong.
That's wrong.
Damn, I would have taken the day off.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could have gone down with Julia and a bunch of raucous
So Julia
roommates.
did get it. Julia got
Yeah,
it.
they left their apartment before 5. They got there before 8, and
Can
they
you
were
talk about the
vaccinated. They were
Alright.
vaccinated by 8:15.
So how is Danville skirting all of Virginia's guidance and rules?
I will let you know at a different time. It has to do with being a red area versus a blue area.
Yeah, that's what we were thinking.
When people
All right.
decide not to be vaccinated, there's a lot of supply that's sitting around that needs to be into arms.
All right. Well, yeah, I've heard that too, and I've seen it posted in many places. All right, back to this meeting, and hopefully we'll all be vaccinated soon. Coming up on new business, there's 2 things on here, making pledging a requirement for membership. And the second part is the Jefferson hallway brass lettering. So can we swap these 2 and talk about the brass lettering first? Is that all right with everyone? Because I think that the second topic is going to run a little bit longer. So when I talk about the brass lettering in the Jefferson foyer, does everyone know what I'm talking about? That around the top of the Jefferson foyer, there's some words made out of little brass letters up there. And the issue here is Sean pointed out that hallway and the foyer and the bathrooms, I can't remember what all, are about to be repainted. And is that correct, Sean? All that stuff is getting repainted. And as part of that process, those letters need to come down so that they can paint quickly and efficiently. And Linda and I had a conversation about this, and we sort of decided that this is a maintenance housekeeping issue, taking them down, that the removal of the letters temporarily, or the removal of the letters for painting, doesn't really rise to the level of a full board decision. So we were comfortable with just saying, go ahead and take those down and then paint. Now the question about putting those back up is a whole nother issue, and whether or not we want to reinstall them exactly as they were. They're quotes from Thomas Jefferson, and we are in the process of changing our name away from Thomas Jefferson. So there are people who don't want to see those letters go back up or go up in a different place, in a different way, who want to change the whole, that whole situation. But in the interest of timely renovation and maintenance of our property, we would like to put putting the letters back up, pushing that down the road for the moment. That in the interest of time, I think we should take those letters down so that the painters can do their job. Linda, is that an accurate description of what we agreed on?
Well, I wouldn't say we agreed on. We talked it over. We were in agreement, but since then,
Yeah.
I've heard some other comments that I think probably should be weighed before the board says that. So I don't know if other people want to add in.
Okay. So let's start with Elizabeth. Thoughts? What do we think about?
Yes, I do have rather passionate thoughts about this.
Okay.
I think that that section of the ceiling is a color that doesn't need to be painted, because all of the colors in that whole area are 7 different colors. So we could leave it alone and punt the discussion down the road when the arc of the discussion about who we are and what our ancestry is and the shoulders upon which we stand is a conversation that we can enjoy and create as part of who we are. Once you take them down, you've started the discussion. You have not punted it at all. You've taken them down. So I would like us to avoid having the conversation for even 3 years, because I think we'll have a very different conversation amongst ourselves about our ancestry, about why we are in Charlottesville, how we came to be here, how we took Thomas Jefferson's name away because of our current beliefs about who you take pride in. But the whole conversation about religious freedom is a huge conversation about why the UUA said we need to be in the location where the person who pushed for religious freedom began those words. And that's all those words are about at the top. They're about religious freedom. And I think that it was Karen Foley who said, be careful of what you raise up as important issues, because as time goes on, different issues will be important. And I think the issues of religious freedom will become an important issue in the arc of time. So I don't want to, we're hot on making sure Thomas Jefferson's not part of us. That doesn't mean that in 5 years, we won't be proud that the writer of religious freedom doctrines is our ancestry.
Okay. Kelsey and then Liberty.
My question is only pragmatic. Are we trying to use Glenn Short money to repaint the foyer? Because that's, I hear you that we don't have to repaint it now. I'm just wondering if there's like a time limit on it because of Glenn Short Trust.
I don't know. I don't think that's Glenn Short, Sean.
It could be. Glenn Short's funds are restricted to the old part of the building, and that basically everything from the Jefferson Foyer to the Edward Lane doors to the sanctuary that's covered by that. We haven't talked about them doing it. Mostly it was me wanting to make sure that the building is as fresh and as impressive as it can be when everybody comes back. So whether that be this year, next year, whatever it is, I just wanted to start to get that ball rolling, because as nice as the Glenn Short committee made everything look, it really makes the other parts stand out as being horrible. Once you go up those steps to head towards the social hall, it's an old building again, and you can't see all the wonderful stuff that was done. So that was just me really wanting to, and it's gonna have to be a decision. I know, like Elizabeth said, she wants to punt it down the road, but I know there's going to be some people who are upset if they get taken down, but I know there are going to be some people who are upset that they're still up because they thought this situation was resolved. So I do think it needs to be a broader conversation. But honestly, whether we leave them up or take them down, somebody's going to get mad. So we just need to make sure we're doing what we can to honor the vote that was made, and whatever we can to make the building look as nice as possible.
Okay. Liberty?
I just want to clarify, are we just talking about the brass letterings that's elevated and talks about religious freedom? Are we also talking about the, foam core signs with the picture of the enslaved man or the victim of human trafficking that we display in our foyer? Is that can we do one? Can we take down the signs and keep the lettering, or has that been discussed?
We haven't really discussed details of it. It's just, it's basically, should we do anything in that area right now? I think is the question.
Okay. Leah, I see your hand up.
So my thinking here really is about process. I am not impassioned either way with keeping the letters up or the wording up or taking it down, but I feel like it's a tripwire for this board with the congregation around trust, around transparency, around people understanding what they were voting on or making decisions about or not. I think for some people, there might be a feeling of we were just voting on the changing of the name. We weren't voting on taking out the last part of our memorial to Jefferson, which is what that room was at one time. We had a Jefferson memorial. And so I feel like this is a place to be really mindful about our process. How we do this matters. And I think that some of the goodwill and good work that we've done could be, on other issues, could be lost by not being intentional about how we approach this issue and how transparent and engaged we are in conversation with the congregation around it. I'm also aware that it cost, I think, a pretty penny to install those letters on the wall. So it's not just like a poster that we take down and put back up. Like, it's a financial decision as well. If we were to remove them and then decide we wanted to put them back up, it would have a financial implication. But I do think the idea of saying, well, we're just going to remove them and then decide, I think whoever said that starts the conversation, I think you're right. And I think it would start the conversation on the wrong footing, because it just doesn't feel as respectful as I think we're trying to be.
Okay. Sean, do you have a timeline for when you want this painting to happen? We don't have an opening date. Painters this is probably a week project for a painter, so there's no particular urgency.
No, there's not an urgency other than like what Leah just said. It needs to be a conversation. I don't want to wait until we're going to open and then have the conversation, and then it takes another couple of months for us to do it. So I think it needs to be decided before we open, but it doesn't have to be now.
Okay, I see Kelsey, Liberty, and then Jim.
Again, just thinking pragmatically, if we're both trying to not have this giant conversation right now and to make it look less grungy, is it possible that we could pick one consistent white and paint everything outside of that little square, brighten just everything else up around that little square? And then we can, have a really intentional discussion about what to do with that, when we return as a community, but we could also still get things less scuzzy looking, like get rid of the chipped paint and stuff like that. I mean, is that an option as like a third way?
Not really, because it's more than just one little section. They're brass letters on all three of the walls. I mean, the only one that doesn't have the wall or the letters are the same wall that has the stairs. But they're pretty much everywhere.
Yeah, I was thinking about like the wall back to the social hall, like the wall going up the stairs where there's chipping paint, like the ceiling, stuff like that. Like, is that an option? Just skip the brass letter walls?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we can do it.
Okay.
But
Liberty, and then Jim.
I just want to say it again. The things that are up there on those laminated foam core signs. First of all, I just don't think are that aesthetic and also are different than the brass letters. And I just would like to make a proposal that somehow we can take those down and paint, and they can easily be put back up. These are totally different, creatures than the individual letters. And just also, I will say, Leah is so right. It's so expensive to do that. I would suggest getting someone in to get a bid on reinstalling those before you take them down, because they're going to need to make rubbings to get a pattern. And and if they have to do that by hand without them already on the wall, it's going to be really expensive. And so before we take them down, let's know who's going to put them back up, if we're going to put them back up, and so that they can do all the measurements while they're on the wall, because it is truly, it's skilled labor by the hour. Sitting there and putting in a letter, right? So skilled labor upwards of $25 now. I mean, it can get really expensive. And so that was just my little sign shop pro tip, is get your quote before you take them down. And then also my second thing is that the foam core things, I think, have some very, very troubling, very, very triggering, beyond Thomas Jefferson language and imagery that is I don't think really healthy for the people in that space. And so I would like it to be considered two separate projects.
Okay. Jim?
Yeah, just sort of jumping off of what Kelsey said. Your memory of and your mind's eye about what these look like is way better than mine. I haven't been in the building in a year. But my recollection is the letters are up high, right? Is that correct, Sean?
I'm trying to upload some photos right now, but
they're not at eye level. They're up high, right?
There's like 3 sections where they're up high, and then there's 2 sections where they're on the walls.
Because I'm wondering if we could do something like what Kelsey was getting at, which is paint the parts that you look as you're walking around, not touch the stuff where the letters is, and it'll look a little grungier if you happen to look up and look at them. And I guess there is a wall where it's on the where it's right at eye level is what I think I'm hearing you say. So I'm trying to come up with a way that we could paint to make most of the foyer look good, while avoiding painting up there until we have this sorted out. It's I guess what Kelsey was saying, but I'm just trying to get my eye around it.
Okay. So Sean's just put up some pictures.
Oh, is every one of those little bits of words that letters we're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this section,
right.
And then you got this section. That's one of the poster boards she was talking about. This is the wall near the men's bathroom. There's some up there. Then of course right above, leading out to Edgewood Lane. So it's up high in 3 places, and it's on the wall in 2 places.
Okay.
They're kind of framed out, so they look different, like they're inset, right? So like if they are off white, and the rest were a brighter white, like I think it could look just fine and would also have the benefit of brightening things up.
Yeah, it would look like you had trim your painting.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm not sure how they're usually done, but from the letters that are missing, when I looked into them, it looks like they were pinned, like maybe
Sean, the letters were lost in the transfer from the original Jefferson room, and we tried to get them hand poured, and no one had the ability to create those missing letters. All of this work was done to get it in place, because it went from a much smaller room to here, by Gordon McKeeman, who did take months to get them spaced out. And then we still had to pay the installers a lot of money. I remember that with Leah, to put them in, because it's what Liberty's telling us. It takes a true graphic person. The foam core things were created by Wick, and they're not, I agree with everybody, they're not permanent or anything. They're pretty much stuck on. So I don't think we should consider, I think it's 2 different questions.
Okay. All right. Well, clearly this is a much bigger issue than I anticipated. I did not realize that there was so much attached to these letters. But again, in the interest of time, can we push this issue over into May and bring this up again. Elizabeth, I think you're correct that we're going to punt this down the timeline a little bit. Let's get through the pledge drive. Sean says there's no urgency for the painting, and I'm not hearing that we're going to be in the building maybe by September, maybe beyond. So this is not something that we need to decide tonight. But Elizabeth, are you aesthetics committee? Is that you?
Yes, that's me.
Yeah, all right. So maybe at your next aesthetics committee meeting, you can roll this around and bring us back some information about this. Does that seem fair? How much it's going to cost if we have to take them down, put them up, leave them there? What some of our options are. Maybe aesthetics can give us some guidance.
Sure.
Okay. All right. And then Beth, do you mind putting this? Let's talk about this again in May. Let's get through April because we've got a lot of stuff already there. So let's put this to May or June, depending upon when we can fit it in. All right. Well, thank you to everyone. That was very illuminating. I had no idea. I just thought they were stuck up there and could be pulled right back down, but it sounds like it is quite a process. So we'll let people who know what's going on here figure out what we're going to do.
And it's also very important to know how much it does raise. It's kind of like, I walk in, I don't know what the deal is. And as soon as you say it, to have strong reactions, you go, oh, we touched a sore point.
Yeah.
So that's good to know, good information.
Yeah, so definitely something to keep in mind. All right. The other part of new business is something that has probably occurred to more than a few people after looking at some of the pledge drive data, especially the pie chart and the donut outside the pie chart, and that is making pledging a requirement for membership. I think that Jim and Liberty's pie chart really brought this home, that nearly 1/3 of our congregation doesn't pledge anything. And so I really took that to heart and did a little bit of research and sort of Googled other congregations that do make pledging a requirement of membership. I didn't even know that was a thing, because in some ways that seems very harsh to make pledging a requirement. But in fact, it seems like most congregations make pledging a requirement. And they have various ways of going about it. How much they ask for people to pledge, a minimum pledge. Is there a minimum pledge? What to do if you can't pledge? There's lots of ways to do this. And is this something that we want to do at all? I do recall that this came up for a vote several years ago and it did not pass. It came up at a congregational meeting and it did not pass. But now that we have been teetering on the edge of our budget for quite a few years, and if I remember from our whiteboard presentation, Stan, our reserve cash is at essentially zero. We have no cushion to fall back on anymore. So I think this is a conversation that we sort of need to have, whether we want to make pledging a requirement for membership and how would we go about that. So I just want to use this time to hear what people are thinking, that this is the opening of a conversation. We're not here to make any decisions whatsoever tonight. But I just want to hear what some people think about this. I see Sean's hand, then Stan, then Jim. So Sean, lead us off.
So in the chat, I just posted from the bylaws, what the bylaws officially say what it takes to be a member. And it doesn't say pledge, but it does say support through financial contributions and active participation. So that's from the bylaws. The policy manual doesn't have anything more specific. It just says that you have to be over the age of 16. And that can be, individual exceptions can be permitted by the board. But just so everyone's on the same page, this is what's official bylaws and policy.
Thank you for that. Stan, then Jim.
Right. Yeah, I did read those letters at the end of the agenda. And I was noticing that Asha in particular seemed to be saying that some of the older members might be annoyed if we just said that you needed to be a pledger. I would question that particular demographic being the one that would have a problem with it. My sense, if I had to guess, I would guess overall that it's the newer members that weren't doing any pledging, that haven't been doing any pledging, or the ones that really were not able to pledge and would get waivers. And that those would probably also be the ones who would be less likely to require it. The other thing is this has been a discussion for almost 20 years that I'm aware of. I know when I first got on finance committee, Lois Brown, that was her big thing. She wanted to talk about tithing every month. So this is not something new for our church to even think about by any means. And yeah, we have no reserves. We need to build up reserves. We need not to be stressing the finance people so much. Every year, literally every year I have been on finance committee, it has been a problem getting a balanced budget. So we need to do something about that.
All right, let's go to Jim, and then I see Linda had her hand up.
Yeah, so I read the letters too, and I'm in favor of having a required pledge, but I think it might be useful and the right thing to do to separate the requirement to pledge from what the amount would be. In other words, pledging is you're making an intentional promise. You're being in covenant with the church, and you're saying that I'm pledging my commitment to this church by giving a financial commitment. And then a separate discussion could be what we expect the minimum to be. And anybody can actually be below the minimum if they get their, I've seen some of the verbiage from the other churches you put a few weeks ago about usually conversation with the minister is what is entailed. But I do think that an annual pledge, just as an act of commitment to the church, is a very good thing for all the congregants to do. And so I'm in favor of that. But we could separate that from the amount. And I'm repeating myself, so I'll stop.
Okay. Thank you. Linda, did you have your hand up?
I think Sean was ahead of me.
Oh, Sean, did you have your hand up again?
No, but I do have something else to say if Linda doesn't have anything.
I do have something to say, but I don't want to jump in line.
No, you go first. I'll go after you.
Okay. Well, one, I was going to sort of say something like what Jim said, that I think the relationship is the real key here. It's not the amount of money. It's the fact that people are not in relationship with the congregation. And that's the real problem. And so in a sense, I can see whoever crafted the language for the bylaw was very skillful because it names financial contribution and active participation. But it doesn't say you must do it. It says a member is someone who supports the purposes and recognizes and understands this. But the only way that a person can show that they recognize and understand it is to answer the phone when the person, a pledger calls, pledge asker calls up and says, what's your promise for the coming year? And a lot of people don't do that. And so I think it's a question of relationship, that it's most important to me that pledging is the responsibility, not the money per se, because if you are willing to have a conversation with somebody and say, I pledge to be a part of the church, but I just lost my job and I absolutely cannot give you anything, that's still a pledge. It's a relational commitment. You're fulfilling your part of the relationship. So I'm sort of moot on whether or not you want to worry about tweaking it. It feels like it's more like a conversation that needs to happen outside of the setting rules. It's not, we don't want to be talking transactional relationships. We want to talk about real, authentic, covenantal relationships. It's not a transaction. We're not a business in terms of you owe us this money, because then we become like a health club. You owe us money if you want to get in here and use our equipment. We're not that. We're a relational community of covenant. Another thing I wanted to say is I'm not sure, Stan, that newer members are not pledging. I believe we did an analysis and RE families pledge at a higher level than the median. And in fact, the membership committee has been very intentional this year. We have gotten pledges from the new members and they've not been low pledges. So
Okay.
it maybe is a middle, maybe they used to pledge well, and then people that came in the last, period of time didn't understand pledging. It wasn't explained to them. But it's, once again, I do believe new families are pledging, and that's why we had as many new pledges as we did this year. So
Always
I'm not
glad
sure
to be
that's,
wrong.
I don't think that's quite a fair thing. It might be true of 5 years ago. I don't know. No, somebody, that would be a good job for you, Jim. Do a demographic analysis of when a person joined the church and what level of giving are they. And we would maybe be able to understand if we did a good job. And it's on the church to do the job of explaining it and saying, what does relational membership mean? And then the third thing I wanted to say is, you said the finance committee has been stressing. I am trying to tell the finance committee, this is what I was telling Marion, and I'm going to tell the finance committee, it's not the finance committee's job to balance the budget.
Well,
it's not the finance committee. They just simply crunch the numbers, give the board advice on best practices, and then the board and the staff get together and say, where, if the finance committee shows us, oh, there's going to be a deficit, the board and the staff then have to take a good hard look at where do they think, who's going to get cut out because of the deficit, or what can we do? It's the board's job to raise the money, and it's the board's job to name where the values direct the money. That's the board's job. That's why you're elected. You're not elected to talk about the color of the paint. You're elected to care about what the congregation wants, what's in the best interest of the congregation. And so, Stan, I'm sorry the finance committee has been stressing over it, but because it's really, they don't have to stress. They can just put the numbers in and say, here you guys go. We think this is a bad idea, but this is what you're looking at.
All right, let's go to Sean and then Stan.
So the big kind of like eye opener for me it was from Linda when she said that anybody who comes to the church can participate in the ministry of the church. And the difference that members make are the ones who want to support that ministry, not just benefit from it, but support it. So here in the chat, I am putting all the benefits that members get. And the first and the biggest benefit is the ability for members to vote in congregational meetings. So when I first came to this church and I was informed of all the financial stress and woes, it was brought to my attention that when the congregation didn't like the ministry of WIC, the Group A took the money out of the church. And then when WIC left, Group A put their money back in the church, and then Group B took the money out of the church because they weren't happy with what happened to WIC. So basically, in both cases, the budget and the finances and the staff, honestly, of the congregation was held hostage based on people putting, taking the money out and putting the money back in. Had this been enforced more, you take your money out, you don't get to vote anymore. So it kind of makes people invested more in the church, especially with their money. And that I think would prevent people from basically using their money to hold the staff hostage. So I think that's one of the biggest reasons, stability, and like Linda said, becoming invested in the congregation, making that pledge and that engagement, but also, not being held hostage and not creating financial chaos, basically.
All right, Stan.
Yeah, back to what Linda was talking about. Yeah, Linda, I know you and I spent some time talking about this last week. And you know that just based on our very recent history, I have something of a different point of view about letting the board be the one absolutely in charge of balancing the budget. The history there doesn't bode well, and a lot of people are not going to be happy about that. And I believe I said to you that I'm fine with the board always has had final say over the budget, no matter what. And I would like to be able to have finance committee producing a balanced budget for the board to peruse. As far as the board actually being the one to do it in the final analysis, I would be much happier with that if we could put in something in the bylaws about requiring a balanced budget. Because that was the real issue. That's what took care of all of our reserve cash, is all of these years of deficit budgets. So that's maybe a discussion for a different time, but and again, I take your point. I understand what you're saying. I don't know that goes well with our recent history.
Yeah.
Well, of course, part of the problem is democracy in the congregation. People vote for the board. So if they want a board that balances the budget, they should vote for people that will balance the budget. And that's why I said, remember in the fall, I said one of the board's biggest jobs is to listen to the congregation, to spend time really reaching out to them, not just to the people that come to you and complain, but the people, all the people, so that you really understand. So anyway, I saw Liberty's hand up. I'm sorry, I jumped in out of order.
So Liberty and then Kelsey, please.
Yeah, I think that while I really, I'm deep into the stewardship and I've really been watching the budget for the last few years, and I really respect what Sean and really Stan have to say as far as needing the stability of knowing how much money you're going to have come in and not wanting people to manipulate their pledge. But I sort of feel like what we're doing is we're sort of punting the responsibility to the members with a rule that I don't think is producing the results that we want. Because, especially just coming out of the dysfunction that we've come out of. I started coming in 2014, and at no point has this church felt like a healthy, stable place to invest money until maybe the last few, right? Like we're starting to stabilize things. And so if there had been any kind of requirement to pledge, it would have felt wrong given the culture that the church I know. And so I think that rules can't solve culture problems. And we have a culture of trust. We have a culture of stability. We have really a lot of the energy in this conversation and around stewardship is so like us versus them. And so like we need to get these people to do the right thing. And if we're saying that, it's us and it's leadership that's failing because that's our audience. That's our client. I don't know, all the different areas in life where we cater. And if our congregation is not giving, I don't think you blame the congregation. I think there's membership is not nurtured in a really like proactive, like strategic way. Stewardship, we know barely exists besides the pledge drive and the great rental and stuff, but there's so many gaps to fill before you go to requiring. If you just ask people, like right now we have close to 100 people who haven't filled out any kind of card. We can't even find them. Like we can't even pull up their name in our database. We didn't have a way to text them. If they're not opening the emails, how are we going to enforce this requirement? Are those 100 people dropped from the membership rolls? The fact is like now and even in person, we have a lot of people we don't reach in understanding what stewardship is and understanding what membership is. I would say it would be a really like kind of advanced thing for a board to say, let's visit this in 3 years after we implement a stewardship and a membership development plan. And we have a bunch of happy people who are giving by choice. And then we can talk about rules because rules isn't going to solve this when we have such big gaps in our infrastructure. Even though I wish it would, because I think the wave a magic wand and make the money come in is what I would like to.
All right, let's go to Kelsey and then back to Jim.
So I don't know, the conversation's moved on a little bit from this because I think I'm responding what Linda said in her first comment a little bit. I get the rhetoric of saying like, well, what a member is somebody who understands that like they have these responsibilities and it's not just financial, it's about like caring about the health of the congregation and stuff. I say this, I'm not really sure how to say this. I certainly like am one of the broker members of the church. Like I definitely had to use like the Thanksgiving like food bank my first year, you know what I mean? And I think if we don't give people a real alternative to a financial pledge, if they really can't do it, then just saying like, oh, well, it's really about like how much you care. Like if that just means, and what you care is what like your expression of care is financial, like if we don't give people an alternative, like we should just go ahead and say like it costs minimum like $100, you know, like at minimum you have to pledge $100 if you're going to be a member of the congregation. Like if that's what we mean, that's what we need to say. We can't say, oh, it's just about caring and then not give people an alternative to a financial pledge.
All right. Jim, you're up next, and then back to Stan.
Yeah, and so I would love to see rules implemented like Sean said, and Liberty, I think, eloquently stated that it's about culture. It was more than rules, because as soon as Sean said what he said, I was like, well, what's to stop anybody from saying I'm going to reduce my pledge from $1,000 to $10? I still get the voting rights, but I'm still holding you hostage by 99%. You know, so that people who want to skirt that can find a way to skirt that. You know, so that's all I wanted to point out.
All right, Stan.
Yeah, Kelsey, I was just talking at this point about the pledge aspect of things, but when there has been a slightly more detailed conversation, I have always said either pledge or volunteer or both, and then if you can't do either one, you talk to the minister and get some kind of a waiver. So yeah, I'm with you. The volunteering, if you can't pledge, is a perfectly acceptable thing from my point of view. We've always needed more volunteers than we've got too.
But we don't have a formal way of tracking volunteering, and we've never put any time or thought into what that would look like into doing something that's like a time bank. Like if we're just like, or, you know, show up and like do dishes occasionally, like
yeah.
If we quantify, I think it can go a long way into making people feel like, yes, I like actually have a place here. I actually am helping, even if I can't donate, you know?
Yeah.
Pam, your hand was up, and then back to Liberty.
So I got confused, Reverend Linda, when you were talking about whether I understood what you said, but I wasn't clear about whether you were saying, yes, this is a good idea, or no, this isn't a good idea. So I do want to hear more about that. But one of the things where I think we get stuck is that we think of ourselves as a church with 365 members. But if we have, 75 members who aren't pledging, then we need to really, I think, when we start thinking about what we're doing and what we're giving and what we're providing, we're not really 365 members. We're 290 members or 280 members. And we need to think of how we're operating in that way.
All right. Liberty, was your hand up? Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify too, because I think that we can, in building out this culture of membership, we can educate people and like build the culture that says it's expected of you to renew your membership each year by refilling out your pledge card, and having it on file as I have low income can be an option on that card. But having the expectation that we count the number of members and then we count the number of pledge cards, and they're pretty much even if some of them are zeros, there's still something on file that said, I thought about it and I budgeted you $0, but I went through the process and did it. And I think we can do that in an educating and culture way.
Okay. Linda, and then Elizabeth.
Yeah, I was confused by Kelsey, what she said about what she thought I said, because I don't think I said what I think she thought I said. So I'm talking about sort of the idea that being in right relationship. It's like in a family, I wouldn't say to a kid, either you pay for dinner or you do the dishes. You choose. I would instead, be in relationship with the kid and find out how they're feeling and what they're doing. I'm talking about relationship, not rules, not laws. So it doesn't matter if the person cares or not. I mean, I can't read people's hearts, but the courtesy of not ghosting us. We have had people ghost us. And that's not a healthy family. That's a cutoff. If you do psycho, Pam is the expert in this. If you do psycho stuff, when somebody cuts off in a family system, that's unhealthy. That's sick. That's manipulative. That's mean. That's angry. That's not healthy. And so if you want to be a member of this community, you have at least the understanding that it means being in right relationship. And being in right relationship means you answer the phone or you reply to the email, even if it is, not this year. At least you have the courtesy to say, I'm a part of the community and I care enough about you. And you did use the word care. It's relationship. And I don't know if people care about it or not, but if you want to be in the community, it means something. And it's not rules. Yes, it'd be great if we could count volunteer hours and all that stuff, and that'd be great. But that's not as much as what I'm interested in. In terms of Pam's question about whether or not I think you should change the bylaws, I think what I'm saying is at this point, probably not. I think the wording is okay. And the point is more like what Lydia said, we need to talk about a developmental task for somebody to work on how do you actually do donor development. That was in my stewardship umbrella plan. If anybody read that plan, one of the areas in stewardship development is donor development, which is membership, which is not just finding new people, but actually then nurturing them, teaching them, involving them, nurturing them so that they want to become parts of the community. And if they don't, that's okay. As we are ministering. And so anybody can be ministered to. Anybody can walk into our building. We're a public institution. We will teach you. We will pray with you. We will care for you. And the only reason to become a member is to support that. Really. So that's my thing. So I'm sorry I talked.
All right, Elizabeth, go ahead, please.
So I really like our statement about a person who understands and recognizes the need of the church for support through financial and active participation. I think it's very you, not to require, but to expect. And so I have spent probably, Leah would know the number of years, 15, maybe 20 years doing the Thanksgiving fresh vegetable giveaway, which are members who have to acknowledge to somebody that they're going to stand and receive the fresh vegetables. And that's quite an effort to make sure they feel they are part of community, that it is, even if it's better to give than receive, acknowledging you're willing to receive is a huge job. And I like that we try to figure out who they are and then put it in a way that is not shameful. So on this same thing of required money, I tend to fall into the how will my friends who go to our church, because we don't require, yet we expect, I'm not relieving the expectation. I'm just saying there's a really nice difference between require and expect. And then it becomes our job as membership and as board members at knowing people to increase the relationship that Linda's talking about.
All right, Leah, and then Beth.
So I wholeheartedly support the idea of relationship and how it's all about relationship, and echo many of the things that have been said tonight. And I just want to remind us, as we do this really important work, that it's also a learning place for us around inclusion, multiculturalism, how we're doing our racial justice work, and to have that be in our minds as well. That when we think about what is the culture of our congregation and what are we aspiring, who are we aspiring to be, to have that sense of racial justice and identity work and inclusion be part of what's guiding us.
All right, thank you. Beth?
I just wanted to say, as someone that was a caller this year, I'm still finishing up my 10 people. 2 of my persons are low income. One lives in low income housing, and they were the first 2 people to ask me for a conversation. One actually invited me to her apartment for a visit. We had, 7:30 a.m. coffee together. So they made very small pledges, but it was definitely, they were the first people to return my email. They wanted to make the commitment. I did it online with one of the persons. So I don't know. I think there we have a rainbow of different people. Some are not at all ashamed to say, you know what, I don't make enough money to pledge, but I'm going to put down, $52 this year. And that was great. And we had a great conversation about it. The people that are hard to find for me are people that probably could put down a couple thousand, but I don't know.
All right. All right. Well, I'd like to thank everyone for your comments. Like I say, this is just the opening conversation on this topic. I sense we'll be revisiting this over the next few months, especially as the results from the pledge drive comes in, and then what our next budget looks like. Will we have to cut things? Will we be able to maintain what we have? I think that we voted on this once before, and perhaps we'll vote on it again, but I'm glad that we're having the discussion now, an entire year before the next pledge drive rolls around again. So just keep thinking about this, and probably not the next meeting, but we'll bring this up again in May and continue with this one. But for right now, Kelsey tells me that we used up the extra 15 minutes to talk about this. And in an effort to attempt to end at 9 o'clock, let's shut down this discussion for right now. And I'm afraid we're going to have to go into executive session because we do have some stewardship things to discuss. So we're going to bid farewell to our guests tonight. And we're going to leave it at just the staff and the board. Bye, friends. And then I think, Linda, you are the one who was initiating the stewardship conversation about
what time is it? 8:56. Okay, I'm just documenting that.
Process review. My first time doing this. I hope I do an okay job. One of the things we had to do immediately was correct our wrong link so we could let people get in who thought they were getting in correctly. We had a good discussion about returning to the actual physical building, and Leah really brought us focus on both inclusivity and justice and understanding, keeping those things in mind as we think about returning to the building. We had an uplifting pledge drive. We did a straw poll about our decision about the minister. I think we were very respectful and had a great discussion around the issue of the lettering on the wall, and brought up aspects of it that I think many of us hadn't thought about. I certainly didn't know about some of these. And then we had a good discussion about pledging, which led to and what it means to pledge, and the relationship to our congregation. Discussion went very well. We had to shut it down because of time, but overall it was a very good meeting. I don't have any real critiques of anything. I don't know if I was supposed to find something, but everyone played in the sandbox very well together.
Excellent. Thank you.
I do have to, can I just add something, even though I wasn't a process reviewer?
Yes, please.
I didn't admit it early on, but I am going to admit it now, that the church building closure was actually on the original agenda for this meeting, and I took it off, and I don't know why I did that, but I do clearly remember just getting rid of it. So I'm sorry. And that's why when Leah was like, are we going to talk about this later on? So it did seem like it was out of place, because I think Leah was looking for it in the packet, and I just want to apologize.
Thank you. Yes, I'm glad we all caught that. And for next time around, especially as things start ramping up, we probably want the church the church building, whatever that committee is named. We want to hear from you every single month from now on, I think.
Yeah, I'll put it back in the agenda for every month.
All right. Kelsey, question? Can't hear you. Can't hear you.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Probably good to have a process in place for what we want to do about extending time when we want to extend time. Like if we want to do it or what? I always
Yeah.
feel like the timekeeper is there because we need to have a timekeeper, but
Yeah, it was pretty useful to put it in the chat box, but oftentimes it's hard for me to mind the chat box and look at everyone. So I don't. We're muddling along just fine.
no
I
worries.
don't think there's
Just
any.
thought it was worth bringing up.
Okay. Beth, what did we all promise to do? I don't think we promised a whole lot on this meeting. This was a lot of discussion.
Well, what we did talk about is future topics.
Yes.
We didn't actually designate any certain people, jobs that I remember, but please correct me if I'm wrong. But in April, we are going to, well, sometime in April, probably before April 21st is our next board meeting. Anyway, we talked about having a work session for a future ministry option search, that whole discussion.
Okay.
We want to do that sometime before the board meeting, I think is what we came up with. And then
The board meets April 28th.
that's the 4th.
That's the
Is
4th.
that,
Yeah, so
Oh,
after Easter, but before the 28th, we need to have that other conversation.
April 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, isn't that something? Okay, I have that wrong. Well, you know what? Can I just ask very quickly then, just so I get it on the calendar for us? Is our executive board meeting then the April the 8th or April the 15th? Because we have a lot of days in April.
It's on the calendar for the 8th, but if you think it's better to have it closer to the meeting, we could move it.
I think it's better to have it as close to the meeting as, you know,
All right.
possible. 'Cause-
So do we want to schedule the exec for April 15th then?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Will everyone please make that change? The board meeting, the executive meeting is now April 15th. Same time, which is
6:30.
6:30 p.m. Okay.
And then the board meeting is Wednesday, April 28th. Thank you for finding that mistake. There we go. At 6:30 p.m. Okay, so the work session, and then in May, we're gonna kind of punt the Jefferson foyer brass lettering discussion to May. And in between now and then, we're gonna, this is a job. Someone has to figure out how much it actually, or at least an estimate of how much it actually will cost to take down.
Aesthetics committee was assigned that job.
Okay, so that is a job. Okay. And I'll put that in here.
Yes, correct. There was one job and that went to aesthetics committee to do a deep dive on these letters.
Okay. And then June, we don't really have to worry about right now. That was something that exec talked about, and I put that on future topics, that the old board and the new board are going to look at governance, policies, and procedures, but that's
right.
That's
and
kind of done.
At some point, we're going to have to start ramping up for the next congregational meeting, but that's still a ways off. The congregational meeting is, remind me again, June
6th. June 6th.
June 6th. And since our board meeting in May is May 26th, which is kind of late, we might need to take up what we want on the congregational meeting at the April meeting.
Yeah.
If you want the whole board to talk about it.
Okay. Beth, can you put that on the agenda for the April 28th congregational meeting, or the April 28th board meeting, that we need to talk about the congregational meeting on June 6th?
Yes.
Just get started on that so that we don't run out of time. And then we can finish it up if there's anything more on the in the May meeting on May 26th. So let's get the congregational meeting started in April and finish it up in May, and then we'll hold it in June. So next month's meeting is going to be a big one. We're going to have a lot of stuff to talk about.
Okay. Looking forward to it.
Yeah. Pam, I see your hand up.
I think weren't we going to meet in early April to discuss more about what we want to do about ministry?
Yeah, that's what she was saying. since our regular board meeting is the 28th, we would meet probably somewhere between Easter and then to have that other conversation.
For the whole board?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah, just as a
I
work.
think, isn't that what you were saying, Beth? We're going to find a time?
We are going to find a time. I have no idea if anyone has the bandwidth right now to look at their calendars, or whether we can just do a doodle poll on, on the computer later on.
Doodle poll, please.
Yeah, sure. Beth, are you versed in doodle polls? Do you want to send one of those out for the?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
Um,
Leah has her hand up.
Yes, Rev Leah.
So often in this season, we end up having additional board meetings that have to do with the budget. So I'm wondering if that's something to think about too, and perhaps that meeting, this extra meeting might involve conversations about both, if there's time.
Okay.
The finance committee won't have the budget ready until April 12th. So it would be workable, but yeah. But I have a feeling the budget's going to be a pretty easy thing to talk about. I could be wrong.
So the work session we want to put between Easter and the 28th. Does that sound right? I'm not sure what date Easter is. I don't have
April 4th.
Okay, so a long time.
So are you suggesting then that meeting actually happened between the 12th and the 28th?
If it needs to include the budget conversation.
Okay.
I thought the whole point of having it separate was that so that April 28th could focus on the budget. So that's why the minister's search decision needed to be, at another meeting.
How about the 14th? Just throw it out.
We're going to doodle poll it, I thought.
Oh, that's right. I forgot.
Yeah, let's see what the doodle poll concludes. If it's after the 11th, maybe, but it'd be kind of nice just to stick with the ministry and have a little bit shorter meeting. If we tried discussing the ministry and the budget in one meeting, I'm not sure I want a 3-hour work session. Let's try for a 90-minute work session and just talk about the ministry maybe.
Oh, and can I ask one question? Is that little diagram that Breck made from what Rev Linda?
It's already been sent to you all. It's in your inbox.
Right.
Perfect. Thank you.
And is that anything that we're sharing with the congregation yet, or is that just?
I think that what your report, Lori, said was fine.
Okay.
Which is that we're looking at the options. I don't think we need to share the timelines with them yet. That was just a document to help guide your thinking.
Okay. If we need to share it, that we can kick that down to April. All right, that sounds good.
I do need to make one edit to that. I'll send it out as a response to Linda to
Okay.
make sure we're all on the same page.
Mm-hmm. All right.
And Breck, I see that you put another item in the chat box. I'm not sure that Elizabeth has seen it, so you might want to forward it to her directly since it's more.
No, I saw
something
her
aesthetic
face. I
to
think
look
she saw it.
at. She saw it. Okay.
All right. All right. Anything else out there that we're doing, Beth? Did we cover? I think we covered most of our ground.
Yeah, I think
right.
we covered everything that I have.
All righty. And then if no one has anything else, I believe we're up to closing words. So Liberty, back to you, please.
So this is also pulled from the Chalice reading page on the website. Thank you, Leah, too. I realized I was calling out Oxa for putting it on the website, but you're the curator, and so thank you for these selections. An excerpt from We Are Longing by Starhawk. Somewhere a circle of hands will open up to receive us. Eyes will light up as we enter. Voices will celebrate with us whenever we come into our own power. A circle of healing, a circle of friends, someplace where we can be free.
Lovely. Thank you so much. All right, friends, another splendid meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your moderation.
Always a pleasure. If no one has any news or anything to share, then I believe we'll be calling it a night. All righty. Thank you very much.
Good night.
Bye, everyone.
All Sunday.
Bye.
Night, everybody.
Bye.